This YouTuber has not only lost the right to his property, but also £40,000. And he's only one person out of 238 people to be apparently screwed over by this company. That's through mismanagement and really inadequate handling of money. Now, I know a lot of YouTubers like to promote certain products to you. Why don't you buy my candy or buy my sports drink? But if we roll it back a couple of years, back to an earlier time, let's say the early 2020s, maybe even the late 2010s, YouTuber books were the #1 thing to sell. Everyone has tried this. You've had KSI make a book. You've had Tommy in it and Wilbur Soot release a book. You even had PewDiePie all the way back in 2015 release a book called This Book Loves You. That book, in the next few months, will be a decade old, by the way. We are racing to the grave. I mean, I'll be honest, this video did come out in 2015, so it wouldn't surprise me if everything was black and white back then.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They will only stay with you for the rest of your life.
God, old YouTube was so easy, bro. I know I keep saying this, but we don't realize how easy we had it. All you had to do was put on a funny mustache and an accent, and you were sorted. 10 million views, easy. I do like in the YouTube recommended, I've got a video talking about fentanyl. Very relatable, actually. Now, there were many other YouTubers that made books as well. I Hate My Selfie, wrote by none other than Shane Dawson. Or, of course, a video that I covered a very, very long time ago, Ninja's Guide to Gaming. There is a section for warm-up exercises for gaming. The truth is that competitive gaming is a physically demanding activity. Also, we do have a restock of merch. We have the Server Blight merch here. We also have hoodies, t-shirts, and caps. Link is in the description. Now, a lot of creators also moved on to doing these kind of like graphic novels. Like, for example, Joe Sugg, one of the British vloggers who was huge in the UK years ago. He had a graphic novel in the mid-2010s, and it had pretty all right reviews. And even more recently as well, books are making a little bit of a resurgence. Corey Kenshin, who has been able to hold onto his clout basically his entire career, he's been working on releasing a graphic novel series, and people are really excited for it. The same as Moist Critical as well, the poopy big butt chungus man who always beats me to topics by 3 or 4 days. He himself released a graphic novel series which people loved. There's even other YouTubers that I personally still watch, like for example Jacob Geller. He's writing a book, and anything that guy touches to gold. Imagine my video essays if they were wrote by someone with major depressive disorder. The point I'm trying to make is a lot of YouTubers would release books basically as a cash grab, but there were a few that genuinely wanted the best product possible for their viewer base. And one example here is this YouTuber kind of turned author. And when I mean author, I mean one of these people that actually cares about their finished product and they don't just want like a quick cash grab. So there's a couple of characters you'll need to know to be caught up with this story. First of all, and he is quite a YouTube legend, especially in the UK, NerdCubed. Now, NerdCubed is a YouTuber and a Twitch streamer with over 2 million subscribers, but this guy in like the early to mid 2010s was huge. We're going back to the real old head days. This is when people were playing Surgeon Simulator.
Sorry.
Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Speed. And we've taken off. Pleasant. What the hell?
Euro Truck Simulator, but to be fair, Truck Simulator, that's still quite a popular thing. I've seen Jay Schlatt stream that a couple of times when he was drunk.
Hey Schlot, how's your dry January going?
Now, NerdCubed is a YouTube OG. He's basically been posting on the platform for well over 14 years now. Just for context here, if his YouTube channel was a child, they would basically be picking their GCSEs this year. But content creation isn't the only thing that NerdCubed is actually known for. He's also known to be an author, because since 2018, he's actually published 2 different books under his name. So Boundless and Unbound Books are publishing houses. Unbound Books is a London-based crowdfunding publishing company, and that was set up all the way in 2010. That company is owned by 3 people, one of those being John Mitchinson. Now, Mitchinson has no actual relevancy to this story. I just thought it was funny to bring up his name because he is actually one of the researchers for the British game show QI. However, Unbound had to file for bankruptcy after losing £9 million for their shareholders. And this led Unbound to be purchased by another company that Mitchinson was involved in called Boundless Books. They practically did the exact same thing as the other company. I mean, they haven't even changed the URL on the Boundless Books site sight from Unbound. So imagine this. You are fabled YouTuber Nerd Cubed, and you wake up in the morning thinking, I want to write a book today. Now, this might be a book that's a little niche, you know, maybe not the huge publishing houses would pick up on it, but you know, somewhere out there's a dedicated audience that would love to hear about this book. Now, this is a book about video games. The problem is, when you write a book about video games, it's a bit hard to get the video game audience to actually read the book because usually they're playing video games. Now, the only book series about video games that I can think of at the minute would be Homestuck. This is exactly why video game books are not that successful. Actually, it was a webcomic online. Dude, I'm looking at Homestuck right now. I thought this character here, I thought that was a blind guy with a walking stick. Like, I'm not even joking. But in a stroke of luck, which was luck, later misfortune, but obviously he didn't know that at the time, Nerdcubed has recommended the publishing house Unbound Books. Unbound Books had a pretty unique way of publishing their books because their method strayed very heavily away from the traditional way. Firstly, there would actually be a crowdfunding period. I mean, we've all heard of crowdfunding before. You like Lething, you put money towards Lething. Lething might become real, and it's usually a great way as well for sellers to kind of gauge the market, see the actual interest or how many copies they need to produce of something. It's basically really similar to how Kickstarter or GoFundMe operates. Or if you want to go really into detail, that Makeshift website that basically crowdfunds plushies of YouTubers that sometimes you've heard of, sometimes you've never heard of. And then after the raising money part of the process was over, they'd publish the book. And because of this, and they'd be able to gauge the market, technically any book they would put out would never be a flop.
Eventually, I was put onto Unbound, a crowdfunding platform exclusively for books that, after the crowdfunding period, also publishes them. That's a brilliant idea. Not only does this company allow niche books to find an audience, but the crowdfunding model means that they'll never publish a book that will flop. It's a publisher that can guarantee a profit on every book sold. What could possibly go wrong?
And Nerdcubed also made the point as well, it helps writers that have kind of more of a niche audience or a niche writing style get into the open market, because if they went through a big publisher, 9 times out of 10 they'd probably be turned down. Now, this does sound a bit too good to be true, but obviously that's the foreshadowing here. Now, he published his first book, which was called Fuck Yeah Video Games, and that went through without a hitch. I mean, it basically hit 100% of their funding in like the first 40 minutes, even reaching 1,000%, which was the first time apparently in Unbound's publishing history that they reached that goal so quickly, even causing the website to crash.
I mean, the book broke 100% in 40 minutes. It hit 1,000%, the first book to do that, which even broke the Unbound website.
The only issue that cropped up was the cover art, because yeah, if you put Fuck Yeah Video Games on the front cover, it might turn some people away from it being able to be sold. Now, there was one funny hitch with this book as well. Apparently, Nerd wanted himself on the front cover, kind of dressed up and stuff as like a video game character. And yeah, I'll let him explain the rest on this one.
The subtitle of the book is The Life and Extra Lives of a Professional Nerd. And to incorporate that, Rebecca drew a cover that featured me dressed as a variety of video game characters, as well as important people from my life. Unbound decided that that cover would be improved if it was just me, alone, at the bottom of the page, with my glasses tinted, so I looked like Jimmy Savile. Genuinely.
They wanted to make him look like Jimmy Savile. If you've heard of him, to anyone that's not in the UK, he was definitely a character at the BBC.
What do you do in the caravan?
Anybody I can lay my hands on.
Now, remember that foreshadowing I mentioned earlier? The problem is, as of recording now, Nerdcubed has not received a single penny or cent from his book. He got the pre-order money, but not a word on the sales.
I've never received any royalties for FYVG from sales post-release. Not a penny, as far as I can tell. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Unbound, but I was going through my bank statements yesterday. Nothing was there. The book released, I received all of the pre-order money, and that was it.
So, Nerd originally should have had a 50-50 split with Unbound. Instead, Unbound decided to use the profits on Nerd's behalf to release a softcover version without, like, consulting him on this choice.
If I recall correctly, Unbound decided to take the profits of the book, and instead of giving me my 50% cut, they used all the profits to fund a paperback run without asking me.
Now, he doesn't say whether he actually got his cut from the paperback run, but the later actions do make it look like we probably know who's pocketed the money here. Now, with all that said, even though, you know, not looking like the most honest company out there, Nerd still went with Unbound to publish his second book. This was called Paradox, and again, there were disputes with the cover. Nerd had this idea for like kind of a retro futurist look, you know, something inspired by 70s sci-fi, but Unbound wanted this, which is definitely one of the worst book covers I've ever seen in my life.
My favorite review of this cover was from a friend of mine that I sent it to. They said, I would scoff at a book with a cover like that.
If anything, to me, it just looks like this bizarre Doctor Who ripoff. It's just so uninspired and it's so bland. But the issues don't stop there, because in May 2024, Unbound sent Nerd Cubed annotations in the book. This is basically a way that the publisher can talk to the writer and say, hey, could you change this? Or maybe just kind of like, I don't know, cut this out entirely? It's basically an editing process, the same way that a lot of YouTubers will tell their editors to remove something and then probably to kill themselves afterwards. But when Nerd looked at the annotations for his book, the formatting has been ruined, the paragraphs were jumbled like it was put through ChatGPT. There were random line breaks as well.
In May 2024, I was sent a set of annotations of the book for me to go through. And this was a big set of annotations and notes, huge. And that was the exact moment right there, this bit here, that I gave up on Unbound. And I vowed to never work with them again. The work was good, the annotations were good, but something had ruined all of the paragraphing. Suddenly, multiple characters were talking in a single paragraph, acting in a single paragraph. It was confusing. There were line breaks where there shouldn't be. It was just an absolute mess.
At one point in the book as well, Nerd purposely made the choice to remove spaces when a character spoke per word to kind of emphasize that they were speaking at such a rapid pace. But he found out that this had been broken up arbitrarily, which could imply, honestly, the use of AI or some other kind of automated system.
And it's also, this wasn't the work of a person. I found a smoking gun on the bottom of page 104. A character's voice in that section is sped up, so their entire paragraph of text is written as a single word to imply speed. That had been broken up, randomly, like an automated system trying and failing to find words.
Now, if you're trying to publish a book and you see your publishers making changes with AI, not really the best idea. Now, I do want to, play devil's advocate. There is a bit in the video where Nerd does admit that he used AI. This was to generate kind of a proof of concept for a book cover.
Rebecca made this quick mock-up of the latter, while I used AI generation to make some quick and dirty examples of the former, because like all people who use generative AI, I have no artistic talent whatsoever, and I'm not an artist.
And people can find that a little bit dicey, but I think that using AI to build a concept for a book for someone that has absolutely no artistic talent whatsoever, that would probably save time, as opposed to then using AI to actually write the words in the book, because that's not your words, that's AI. I do want to go back to that AI art thing, because I can imagine some people kind of turning their heads, be like, wait, did he just say AI is okay? What is he, gay? Now, personally, I've never used AI art before for anything related to, merchandise or production in videos, but I could see like some people needing to use AI art as maybe like a template, because I feel like if you talk to an artist about commissioning something, because I'm very good at that, as you know, I feel like you need to be able to explain, you need to have a picture in your head, and then you'll be able to actually explain it to them. And some people just can't do that. They physically cannot do that. So what they'll be doing is paying this artist for something that it's just pot luck if they like the final product or not. Usually some artists paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for entire redraws of scenes. I mean, personally, I don't rely on AI art because I don't have that problem, because I'm very deeply mentally ill. What actually made me pay for this? This is the kind of thing that actually gets you put into a psych ward, unironically. But still, I can see some people trying to envision something and they just can't actually use the words to convey it properly. So I think in like very niche scenarios like that, there's not really much of a problem there. But obviously, yeah, if you're having the book or the annotations done in AI, yeah, that's hilariously bad. So by the looks of it, Nerd basically took it completely upon himself to fix all the formatting in the book, because he had no trust in Unbound that they would do it correctly. And this took him around 100 hours to fix all the issues individually. And it's really good that he did that, by the way, because there were actually 2 errors in the text that he failed to catch, and Unbound basically did nothing about.
I started to type out an email that said that this was unacceptable and that they had to fix this, and I stopped. because I didn't trust them to fix it anymore. None of these changes had been logged in Word's markup feature, so A, I didn't know what was going on, but B, that meant that I had to find and fix each one individually. Around 100 hours of work, which I failed at because there are 2 of those mistakes in the printed version of the book. Why does it look like I'm in a nuclear explosion?
So you can only think and dread of what the final result would have been if Nerd thought, you know what? I'm going to trust this publishing company. I'm sure they've got it all in the bag. So as I mentioned before, Unbound was purchased by Boundless in March 2024 for around £50,000. This includes the rights to all the books that Unbound currently holds. Now, in a mass email, Boundless expressed their commitment to honoring debts that the authors will be treated to despite the change in leadership.
We are wholly committed to honoring our outstanding debts to all of you. Your contract will be honored and transferred to the new company. Please know that we remain absolutely committed to paying all of our authors.
And I will give you 5 guesses right now if you could figure out that they're lying about that. So on the 16th of April, Nerd actually signed over 5,000 book plates, which are basically like designs that can be stuck or printed inside a book. I know books are a very scary concept. I know, like, imagine doing anything except scrolling on TikTok. They open trees and read lines in them. Oh my god. Now, these were for the signed editions, basically for people that pledge money during the crowdfunding campaign. They got like a special edition of the book. But during this whole kind of saga and he realized the publishing company was a bit dodgy, he decided to hold onto the signatures himself so the company would actually still keep in contact with him. And then on the next day, Boundless celebrates its publication day. Yippee! However, at the time of recording, again, no books have actually been sent out and Nerd has no information about the payment plan or how these books will be distributed.
The Paradox celebrates its publication date. At this point, no books have been sent out to backers and I've not received a payment plan or even finalized earning figures for the book.
Then, a couple of days later, he gets a copy of the Sunday Times newspaper, and they have a section dedicated to the best-selling books of basically that week or that month, and he found out that his book wasn't even listed on there, despite it selling far more than what the current top holder on that list was. And this is because Unbound pre-sales had no correlation to the Sunday Times list. And Boundless apparently knew this. They knew they weren't part of the bestseller list, which is a really good way to get more sales on your book, by the way. You'll notice pretty much any book that gets released ever is like, the Times bestseller, you know, because there's like 5 people under the age of 30 that still read books now. All 5 of those people were very excited to read it. But yeah, it didn't even make the list, even though it sold more than enough through pre-sales. But the thing is, Boundless knew about this, and they didn't choose to actually update Nerd Cubed on that situation. And then on the 22nd of April, Nerd finally gets his payment plan for Paradox, the second book. And when he gets the payment plan, it's completely wrong. So he says the number they sent over was actually less than 10% of what they actually owed him. And then it takes someone over 2 days at Boundless to get in contact with Nerd to fix the mistake. Except they didn't correct the mistake. And after 2 delays, Nerd has not heard a single thing from Boundless regarding his payment. The payment, by the way, from his book that he wrote.
I received my payment plan from Boundless detailing all the money that they owe me and when it's going to be paid to me. It's wrong. It's so wrong, in fact, that the number that they state is less than 10% of what they actually owe me. I decide that those signed book plates that I'm holding onto to make sure that people talk to me during this time are very essential to me to keep holding on to. Essentially, I'm now holding my own signed copies of my book hostage so my publisher will talk to me. April the 24th, I am contacted by John Mitchinson, the co-founder of Unbound, and he tells me that the numbers that they have sent are wrong and that he will be sending me a new payment plan on the 28th of April. 5th of May, John Mitchinson tells me that I will receive my payment plan on the 6th of May. I never hear from him again, and he has since resigned.
All right, so things aren't looking that good for Nerd. Okay, how can we make this worse? Well, in mid-May, during a live stream, a chatter actually tells him that they didn't release the book. They only released it as an ebook, and they're doing it at an 85% discount. And then, near the end of May, Boundless sent out a mass email, and this is where the mask really starts to slip. They straight up said that they don't have any responsibility for paying the debts of Unbound. So the crowdfunding money that Nerd tirelessly tried to raise through him and the help of his community is just gone. It's evaporated. Boundless even go as far to say that paying authors the money they earned under Unbound was a goodwill payment. A goodwill payment that can no longer be upheld because the money is run dry.
Goodwill payments. Goodwill payments. That's the phrase right there, isn't it? Goodwill payments. I worked for 5 years on a book. Thousands of you funded it with your own money. You gave that money to Boundless, and Boundless thinks that then passing on the money that is rightfully mine to me would be an act of goodwill.
I do like their change of worldview here. It's almost like they're treating this goodwill payment as them playing Fallout 3 and giving a bottle of water to the homeless man outside Rivet City after they just nuked Megaton. And it looks like Nerd is kind of screwed, honestly. I wish this had a good outcome, but it looks like a lot of the staff have laid off or left. And when the new company was formed, Boundless, they basically only had about 18 people. So now him and 238 other authors are basically just left stranded. I just think it sucks for the guy. You spent all this time, basically 5 years, working on this book, your passion project, to get absolutely zero payment from it. And he even reached out and spoke to some of the other authors as well. And Nerd is probably okay. He still gets some views. He's got the Patreon money to, you know, back him up and stuff. I have no idea of his financial situation, but it seems that a lot of the other authors are doing a lot worse. Some of them can't even pay rent or bills now. Some of them are apparently even pawning off their personal possessions because they don't have the money that Boundless owed them.
I've talked to authors who now can't pay bills, who can't pay rent, who can't pay mortgages, people who are having to sell their own possessions to make ends meet. This isn't people losing jobs. This is people who have done their jobs, in my case, for 5 years and not received promised, contracted income.
It's basically just situation 385 trillion of just horrendous mismanagement. These authors had contracts and done their work the publisher required of them, only to basically get nothing in return. Now, this is the part where I meant to make a funny, quirky joke or something, but I don't think there's any humor here, genuinely. Like, this is a really horrible situation, and Nerd has basically had 5 years of his life just gone down the drain because he wrote a book that, you know, they didn't even manage properly, they didn't pay him for. And then you've got other people that can't even make rent and they might actually go homeless over this stuff.